Hello everyone, this is Zaba here and I want to share my league starter for 3.18. This is a Lancing Steel Berserker, and since nothing changed in 3.17, which is where I completed the whole game with this, save for like Deep Delve All, I thought I would just share the build because you might be looking for something that's a little off meta, that still can complete everything in the game, and if that sounds like something that's up your alley, then here we go. So I'm gonna run a quick Chimera map here. A few points about this build. The clear is decent, it's serviceable. Once you get anomalous spears, and once you get pierce on your gloves, Lancing Steel becomes a basically just barrage, right? Like if you've ever played the old barrage build with the jewel that gives it additional projectiles to the side, that's how it feels. So that's okay. And Call of Steel obviously carries a lot of that as well. So okay, clear. Single target lies to you. It lies to you. It does not scale with attack speed. I am almost sure of that. This in POB it shows 6 million DPS. I don't want to advertise this as a 6 million DPS build because it does not feel like one at all. It might be a combination of things. It might be that you're attacking with projectiles that deal little damage per hit. So you are affected by enemy armor. I have a lot of overcome enemy resistance or whatever, the the mod for physical damage reduction. So that shouldn't be the case, but it might be partially that, and partially just when you attack with Lancing Steel, it stays there, right? So I'm not actually 100% clear on how it scales with attack speed. In POB, it's just a one-to-one, you pick up attack speed, it increases your damage, but I'm not sure that that's actually the case. Because of the delay, like because of the way it fires out afterwards, and also additional projectiles make it a little longer. So not sure what's happening there. It feels more like 2 million DPS, which is still okay. So and by how I got to 2 million is I just watched videos of people doing the feared on like a 2 million build, a 2 million DPS build, and it looked about the same as when I was doing it, which is to say relatively slow, but doable. So that's what I think this build is. But yeah, it was still okay because we built enough defense specifically for bossing. So I will talk a bit about that when we get to our defense gear, defensive gear, I should say. But we built the defense more for bossing, so you are pretty safe in situations even like the feared, apart from the big slams, right? Like the big slams that you're not meant to tank, even though there are builds that can, but very few. Um, Obviously, those we also don't tank, but everything else was okay. You can get a few hits. You can get hit like You can get hit a lot. Like apart from the big slams and maybe shaper balls, we are okay on pretty much everything unless you run minus max. But don't run minus max on the feared. All right. It was my first league that I ever did the feared, so I didn't do any like super high quantity ones. I did like 3 or 4 of the feared. It's a lot of fun. I love the fight, but since I'm new to it, I didn't really run anything too crazy. So I cannot really tell you whether it could farm the feared consistently. Oh, this is a minus max map, by the way. I chose to go for a harder one for the showcase, but that seems to be really blowing up in my face, huh? So this is what I'm talking about as well, like with the defenses being more towards bosses, because bosses are more static, right? Like you don't get situations like this with aura stacking rare monsters in boss fights. So so yeah, solid charts. Let's go. Still excited to see those even at the end of the league. Harbinger is a lot of fun. For next league, also, I will just quickly mention the farm strategies for this build. Harbinger and Breach. Just do those. Harbinger and Breach plus Expedition if you can stand Expedition. I am really not a fan of standing in a map, looking and reading the fragments of an Expedition. So I only ran it for a little bit because I know it's like super good for money, and yeah, it is. I made like 20x from it. But even as someone who doesn't really know what he's doing with Expedition, so it is incredibly good. But you can just run Breach and Harbinger, which is good enough. So you can block everything else out in the new Atlas with the new passives that block out content, since it was confirmed to be the stronger version of that. Uh, by that I mean the 2% chance when you block some content, you get 2% chance for every other piece of content. So it's not 2% distributed evenly among the remaining content, it's every other piece of content getting additional 2% chance, which can leave you with some like 40% chance for a breach. So you don't even need to use scarabs, although you still will, because breach does stack, or you can have multiple breaches per map. So you will still use scarabs. And we are up to the boss, so you'll see the bossing DPS is not really representative of 6 million, but it's not horrible either. So yeah, my estimate is 2 million. Whatever you want to believe that, or the POB is up to you. I think that probably if you look up the like champion guides, their DPS is gonna be less dependent on attack speed and more on just upfront damage. So their DPS is gonna actually be more representative. So if you want more DPS, you can go for something like Don the Crowns build. I've seen that one. It's a few leagues outdated, but you can still, take that build, take this POB, and just figure out, what choices I made that you might want to make in 3.17 and 18 with like masteries. I think that Don the Crown's build was made before mastery, so I don't think he has those in his POB, but it's not that hard to add those into an existing build, right? So you can just use this build as a template if you want to just modify another one that's not updated, and that's completely fine with me. And I just had fun with this, so I wanted to share it, but I recognize that it's not a perfect build. I just enjoy making my own builds. I enjoy playing a little off meta, so that's why I'm playing this. As you can see, the Call of steel shards are a problem. Like here, if I just hold down right click, they're gone in a second, under a second. So that's the problem with scaling the attack speed. People called it out when I shared this on a few months back on Reddit, and they were right. They were right. I have to concede the point to them that the attack speed is a problem. So if this looks like a problem to you, trust me, it is. So maybe go with champion instead if you would prefer. But one thing that champion doesn't have is this attack speed on your leap slam. So that's basically why I got this. What was that? Something. All right. So I'll talk about the defense now. As I said, we built more for bosses, which means more reducing the damage of the hit rather than focusing on recovery and having recovery through leech, because in boss fights you can because Lancing Steel auto aims, and because you can attack from a large distance, even though we have point blank, it still deals damage, so you still leech. So our recovery method for boss fights, but was leech, and we just reduced damage through armor, through maximum resistances, and through spell suppression. Now we also pick up block. We picked up block that was part of this league start plan, but one thing that wasn't the plan at first, that's not in the first video, but I got now, is recovery on life. Recover life on block, I mean. So you can get this on a Shaper Shield, or you can get this on a synthesized base. I went for a synthesized base because I was crafting it myself, and I wanted to get the maximum res, spell suppression, chance to block, and life. So I had to basically alt roll until I got max res, then regal, hoping to hit a good spell suppression mod. And it took about 5x worth of crafting materials to hit that. So in the end, I got a shield like this, and I'm pretty happy with it. It was a night and day difference when I equipped this for general mapping. Because in general mapping, reducing the overall hit is great, but because there's so many different sources of hits coming in, especially with shit like Harbinger and beyond, stacking as well, as you saw in the video there, I nearly died a couple of times. And if I didn't have this shield, I would have died. So that is the difference between dying and living. Having recovery on block. Our block is just 50% attack, 50 spell, because we used the what's it named? Precise technique? No, versatile combatant. We also use precise technique, but versatile combatant. So that we actually can get that spell block, otherwise we wouldn't have it. There is an argument to be made that maybe without this you would have more chance to block attacks, and because you already suppress spells, that's enough. I haven't really tried that. I don't think that's really worth it because we do have a lot of armor already, but maybe, right? Apart from that, we just get free damage because we're Berserker, although it comes in the form of attack speed, which, as I talked about extensively, is not great for Lancing Steel. So it's not the best combination of archetype and, I guess, Ascendancy, because this is, I guess, the archetype. But it's still workable. Then we get Watcher's Eye, we get a Growlwood Shank, we get a Ashes of the Stars, we get a Helmet Enchant, Precise Technique, so we keep our accuracy above our health pool. Cluster Jewel, the Cluster Jewel isn't actually best for damage. Cluster Jewels for this build, since we're not crit and we are not a, we don't stack AoE, are not really that amazing. You could get more Cluster Jewels, but the thing is you would have to drop basically the damage wheel, and we get the mastery for frenzy charges on hit. So you would have to figure out a different way to get frenzy charges. So for us, it's actually very convenient to just stay this way. So we have some damage from the sword nodes and some from the shield nodes, and that way we don't have to worry about cluster jewels too much. Although you do still pick up one when you can, so that you can pick up Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame. This is for recovery as well. As I said, our main recovery is Life Leech, and we scale that through these nodes here. This gives you 10% maximum total life recovery per second from Leech. This one gives you 10. This one gives you, I believe, 10 as well, yeah? And you can get 20 from the Mastery. Then you can get 20 from the, this is a Chieftain Ascendancy node. And then you can get, what is it? 50 from the Phi Pain. So our Life Leech is, sorry, I'm going to pull up the POB for this because I don't actually remember. It is, if you've been hit recently and taken fire damage from a hit recently, and you have at least one Defiance, we have, what is it, 45% of our maximum life per second. So pretty strong leech. It's not instant leech, and with Wall Pact you could make it even better. But with Wall Pact in Arch Nemesis there were vampiric mods that just disabled Wall Pact builds, which is fun. I hope that they nerf those. But nonetheless, I would not recommend Wall Pact, but you can if you want to be even more on the recovery side. And yeah, that's it, really. That's the build. That's the build right there. One last thing is just elemental avoidance. So you might want to know how I avoid all the stuff that you just need to check on off of a checklist for builds today. We get a lot of that from just Pantheon. And honestly, for any build going forward, I'm just gonna rely on the Pantheon for this because it's really not that bad. You just level with the purity of elements if it really bothers you, and then once you hit maps, you basically beeline for wherever this is gonna be in the next Atlas. Probably Stalker of the Endless Demons probably still gonna be there, so just beeline for that. Get the effect of shock, just from. Wait, sorry, no, you don't beeline for that. You beeline for this one, for Puruna, the Challenger, which is the Atoll map, which is a tier 6. So you basically beeline for tier 6s. You want to get to Atoll and get a whatever it's called. Let me look it up. Divine Vessel, yeah, Divine Vessel. You want to get that. Get the Cannot Be Frozen as soon as possible. Reduce effect of chill is also very good, and then from here reduce effect of shock. Then you craft on your boots reduced effect of chill and shock. So with this we have 90% reduced effect of chill, 100% reduced effect of shock. We cannot be frozen, and we get ignite immunity through Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh. before you get those, I was running a flask. I don't have it right now, but I was running a silver flask with chance to avoid ignite and chance to avoid ignite on the boots. Once you get those, you can remove the chance to avoid being ignite for sapped ground or whatever else you want on your boots, or you can even get like different boots altogether with the different mods, whatever you prefer. I just kept it simple and got that. And then chance to avoid being poisoned, chance to avoid being poisoned on Abyss Jewels. I also have one here for that purpose. So we are poison immune and corrupting blood immune. The last thing left is bleed, which we have just on our flask. I almost died to bleed in the map you saw, so it is still something worth considering getting total immunity to, but I did just fine with life flask. So yeah, that's the build now. That's the build. Finally, everything covered. We get our damage, our defense, everything in a pretty nice combo. That's not super meta. So all of the gear is relatively cheap, apart from Ashes of the Stars and the shield. Everything else is not specific to any one build, so you just get gear with accuracy, which granted accuracy stackers might be grabbing up as well, but that's still not really. I don't feel like that's really driving up the prices. All of the gear was affordable. The build itself, for the lack of a better term, right? I went through the whole game with just this build. I didn't buy any carries. I did everything myself, all the boss fights, everything. As I said, the first upgrade was Watcher's Eye, second upgrade Ashes of the Stars. So that change those around depending on their prices next league. Ashes of the Stars allows you to run the current aura setup. So I'll just say, before you get or Ashes of the Stars, drop War Banner, right? You don't want to use War Banner. Without that, you should be fine. Well, it also gives me stats right now, so unfortunately I cannot show you, but without the reservation efficiency on it, you just drop War Banner, and that's it. You need to keep precision, you need to keep determination, and pride is just the best damage aura for you. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you have a good 3.18 league start. Hope that this video was informative for you. Again, I'm not trying to oversell this build. I pointed out the pain points as for you as well, so if you feel like that's something you cannot handle, I recommend checking out Don the Crown's Lancing Steel video if you are interested in Lancing Steel, but not specifically this build because of the pain points I mentioned. I definitely recommend his video for the champion version, which uses, crit and goes into Paradoxica and Savior and can deal, 20 million DPS. And probably actually deals 20 million DPS because you're not falling into the attack speed trap with Lancing Steel. So that I can recommend. But if you just want something that is very comfy and fun to gear, which is kind of a weird thing to highlight for a build, but I feel like so many builds these days are so samey that having something like this that gears differently, where you need to get the off colors, you need to use evasion gear, but you're actually scaling armor, because iron reflexes, you get stuff like the life recovery on block shield that you need to craft yourself because it needs to have all these different pieces of all these different affixes. If that's something that you would enjoy, and you just enjoy being a little lazy and not having to worry about any of the elemental ailments and stuff like that, here you go. Here's a build for you. Check out the POB, make it to your liking, and let me know if you decided to league start with it or not. Alright, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.